The user access control is like a digital bouncer, keeping your computer safe from unauthorized changes. A UAC bypass is a sneaky technique that certain individuals use to slip past that bouncer and gain elevated privileges. It's like a hacker's secret handshake with your computer. The problem is, Club Microsoft is starting to use cameras out front to pay attention to these handshakes. And if you've been following my channel for a while, you know I've previously did a video on a software-based UAC bypass. And that means you also know a few months ago, after several years, it finally got patched. Being a hacker is a non-stop game of cat and mouse. You are constantly going back and forth, exploiting and patching. However, there are just some things that Microsoft didn't anticipate, or even worse, they just turned a blind eye to. Like their refusal to acknowledge the dangers of HID attack devices like the Rubber Ducky, OMG Plug, or Flipper Zero. Microsoft often won't even consider something a threat unless it's clicklessly initiated. Meaning, if you have to touch their computer to do it, they seemingly just don't care. Now to be fair, there's not much you can do anyways, and that's kind of the terrifying part. That's what makes today's video on my UAC bypass that can never be patched possible in the first place. So let's look into how it works and its pros and cons. If you are at all used to looking at my payloads, one of the first things you're going to notice here is GUI-R is getting called twice. That does not typically happen in my payloads. For this particular instance though, we have to use an extra call to mute the system volume in advance. The sound that plays when the UAC prompt is open would very easily give us away, and we can't have that. So this command is just pressing the volume button down 50 times. And yes, you could press the mute button, but how would you know if it was already muted or not? The code to do that would be more than a one-liner, so this is the method we will use. For you to fully appreciate what is happening here, you have to understand why the current system is broken. Typically in the community, when someone wants to run a payload with admin permissions, what they will do is try to open an admin window regularly and then just type their whole payload right into the console. So I want you to ask yourself, what happens if the user doesn't have admin permissions? The window will never open, and now you're just typing out a 500 character payload directly on their desktop. You'll be opening random folders, renaming things, and God knows what. That is sloppy and unacceptable. This next line is where the magic happens. And yes, it can be confusing, so let me break this down for you. First, we're going to use PowerShell to open another instance of PowerShell, the second one being elevated, that is. What made this tricky was finding out the exact syntax that worked while keeping it under the 259 character limit. Remember that Discord webhooks alone are about 120 of these characters. So when we open the second window, we need to pass it some arguments. The argument we're going to pass it is a command. The command itself is just going to be you calling one of the regular payloads like normal and supplying your webhook. Then we will use the verb run as to actually open that second window with elevated permissions. From here, the UAC prompt window will open up. If you guys didn't know, this particular window is basically like running a little virtual machine. It's not actually directly accessible programmatically, so I can't use PowerShell to press the OK button. This is where the Ducky script shines again because it has no problem doing so. So the beauty of what is happening here is the payload isn't even downloaded until it's confirmed that you can run it with admin permissions in the first place. So no more sloppy work. We are above that. This method is just optimizing user input, so it's virtually unstoppable and can never be patched. Of course, just like with other UAC bypasses, you still need access to an admin account. So sure, maybe you don't hit big corporations, but a smaller chain, a clipboard and a ladder can get you access anywhere. Anyways, I am Jakoby. My crime is that of curiosity. And yeah, curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought him back. Till next time.